Hi, I'm Christian from the Welsh Sports channel and DragonSports, and this weekend unfortunately was the last weekend that we'll see any representation in the European Cup for this season. The Ospreys, of course, going down to Lyon by 20 points to 18 in what you have to say is a little bit of a disappointing performance from the Ospreys. Never really got going. Lyon started pretty well with an early try, which was kind of from nothing. Lost line out for the Ospreys. Lyon spread it wide and just sort of beat them on an edge. And an easy soft try for the Ospreys to concede. They did come back in the game. They did come back then pretty much straight away. Unfortunately, Justin Tipuric had to go off early, so that was a big knock. James Fender came on for him, so Rhys Davies had to go at 6. Kind of upset the balance a little bit. But the Ospreys did still sort of battle on them from there and take control of the game a little bit. The scrum was really dominant, particularly in that first half. Unfortunately, referee Andrew Brace was hesitant. At times it seemed to give the penalty to the Ospreys when it really seemed like it should have been one. A couple of times I feel like he was harsh on the Ospreys, but that's unfortunately just one of those things that you're going to get. The Ospreys' defence after the first try was pretty comfortable, and they basically had a lot of the game from that point in. Jack Morgan scores again. I mean, he's fantastic, isn't he? Getting them back into the game. And there was a lot of to and fro in. And then going into half-time, the Ospreys were camped in the 22 on the line of Lyon. But unfortunately, they were just going side to side and there was no penetration. And there was no real creativity, which is a shame because we've seen Mark Jones, since he's taken over, really sort of introduce a bit more flair and a bit more something behind. But it was just a lot of one-up runners. And in credit to Lyon's defence, they just soaked it up and went into half-time just in the lead. And I think that was a little bit of a psychological boost to Lyon because the Ospreys were really knocking on the door, but they just couldn't get over the line. There was once or twice where they had a penalty as well on the 5 metres, and given the fact that the scrum was so dominant, I don't know why they didn't opt to scrummage. They kicked for the corner on one, and I think they took a tap on another, which was a strange decision to me, but the referee and the lack of him penalising Lyon maybe played into that decision. I don't know. In the second half then, the Ospreys sort of tried chasing the game a little bit. Lyon brought a lot of their subs on off the bench, and this sort of gave them a little bit extra power, shored their scrum up a little bit, and Ospreys started to maybe panic, thinking, oh, this game might be slipping away. You're trying to play far too much where they needed to just kick the ball. Neither of the halfbacks seemed to want to kick when they were in their own half. It was a very strange decision. Dan Edwards was unfortunately off the pace a little bit for his high standards in this one. He throws a terrible pass in the 22 and Lyon recover, and eventually that leads Lyon to score, and it puts the pressure on and it puts the Ospreys really far behind. Credit to them, they didn't give up, they battled, they did hit back with a maul try with about 10 minutes to go, and Edwards had the conversion to level it and unfortunately hit the post from, I mean, it wasn't the easiest kick, it was on his wrong side, but he generally makes that 9 times out of 10. Unfortunately, this was the one time he missed it. I mean, you're going to get that with outside half, so no blame really rested on him. But then they kind of just had to chase, and they didn't really have an answer for Lyon's defence. They had a really good rear guard at the end with 5 minutes left, and if Lyon scored, they would have killed the game by that point. Another amazing turnover from Jack Morgan right on the line keeps Ospreys in the game, and you think this is going to be a grandstand finish and the Ospreys are going to do it. Unfortunately, just didn't have the firepower to get over the line. Like I said, very one-dimensional, no real pulling back, no sort of dummy runners. It was just seemed like one hit runners, and Lyon just soaked it up. Like I said, the Lyon's bench really made an impact, but this was a huge missed opportunity for the Ospreys. We spoke in the preview about the run they could have had. They would have been home again and then playing in the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. So, you know, this is a really good opportunity that's gone begging, and it's the quarter-final curse in Europe once again for the Ospreys. It's mental how many times this has happened to them now. I don't really know what the explanation is for that, but this one was a really good opportunity that they did sort of miss. They were the dominant team throughout the game, but Lyon's defence was just too strong. They couldn't break them down. two stats here that just prove the point really. There's the possession for the Ospreys, 67%. Territory was 59%, so they had plenty of territory and possession in Lyon's half, but they just couldn't do anything with it. 202 carries and only 2 line breaks, and that is just a example of where there was a lack of like creativity and dynamism. It was just going out one hit off Dan Edwards or one hit off scrum half, and it was just they couldn't do anything with it, and they just got a little bit dominated in the physicality side of things, which is a shame because last week against the Scarlets they blew them away with their physicality, and they just didn't have the same answer for this big French team. So unfortunately, that's it for the Welsh regions in Europe now. We're back to the drawing board. This is going to make it really difficult for also the Ospreys to get into the playoffs of the URC now. They kind of sacrificed the away game to the Scarlets to rest their players for Europe, which obviously of course paid off in the round of 16, but then this one they've lost now, and they've left themselves a big gap to make up to get the playoffs in the UFC. So we'll see, we'll talk about it in next week's preview, and I'll see you on the next one.